Hi everyone, and welcome back to this fantastic tutorial for Cinema 4D. This is Moises Perez, aka Moilobito, and I am very glad you're still here with us. In the following lessons, we will start modeling some of the details for the buildings. So, let's start. This is where we left last time, and now let's continue and let's go to Google Earth, and these are the details that we are going to be modeling. So, let's go to the right view. And let's go to the splines and select the Bezier tool, and let's just make this shape something like this. Just click and drag and try to do something similar to this shape that I'm doing here. You can use any spline tool that you prefer. So let's continue. And always remember that you can modify these splines after you are finished. So don't really worry if it is not right the first time you make it. You can come back later and just move the points and do the shape that you want. Now let's modify this one here, this point. And let's move some of these points around so we have a different shape. Something like that. So it does look better. So now let's go and let's make an extrude object here, and let's place this spline. Let's make it a child of this extrude, and let's go to the extrude options, and let's just change the movement. Okay, now we have to modify the size of this spline so it is smaller, and let's change the view. Let's go to the front view and place it. And now let's change the view. Let's go to the right view and let's move this object. Let's move the axis first. So when we modify this object, it is going to modify from the center. So we have to make it even smaller. Something like that. So now we can switch to the front view and let's select the building O1 and check on the X-ray option so we can see through and we can see where we need to place this new object here. So let's change again the movement. Let's try with a bigger number. 90 seems to work. And let's just center it. Let's go to the perspective view to see how these elements work together, the building and this new object here. And now we have to come here and we need some caps. So the sides of this element here are not just holes. But first let's go to the spline, and here let's check this close spline option, and that is going to allow us to use the cap because before we couldn't use it because the spline was still open. So it is important to close the spline. So now here on the extrude object, we can start playing around with the field cap option. And it is important to have these caps with this option because you don't want any of your objects to be completely sharp. So if we observe in real life, there is no object that is completely sharp, not even knives and things like that that are supposed to be sharp. If you look closer, you can see that they are not completely sharp. They have an edge. So this is why it is important to use the field cap option, because that is going to give us an object that is not sharp and that is going to make it a little bit more realistic. So whenever you are modeling and you are trying to do something realistic, remember that completely sharp objects did not exist in real life. These final settings seem to work, and let's make a quick render to see this object with some shadows. Now let's go to Google Earth to see if this object looks something like the object that we are trying to model. Now let's go to the top view and let's make this object get closer to the building. Something like that. And now let's make another quick render. It looks good enough. And we can see that there are some other tiny elements at the bottom of this bigger uh, element here. So we have to model that one as well. And as I said before, if we want to change the shape of this object, we can do it just by modifying the points that make this object. So that's what we are going to do here at this moment. Let's just move it a little bit. And it looks a little bit better now. Let's just move this one a little bit more. You can always rotate. And to me that looks much better than it was before. So we are going to leave it like that. And now we're going to be making these other components, and again using the Bezier tool we are going to start making those other elements that we need. So basically we're going to be doing the same that we did before. Just click and drag until you get the shape that you like. So it's basically just that, placing these points and move them until we have the shape that we are looking for. And that shape there is something close to what we are looking for. So now let's duplicate this extrude object and let's replace the spline with the new spline that we created. Now we have to reposition the spline so it is right next to the other one. So now let's go to the top view, and here let's select the extrude object, and let's change the movement because it is too big. Let's try with something around 20. And now let's move the spline, but make sure that all of the points are selected. And let's get closer to see better. And I think we can make this a little bit smaller. Let's try with something like 12. To me that looks better. Now let's change the axis, and let's reposition this object here and make a copy and place it on the other side. Let's get closer and place it even better. That looks good enough. Now let's go back to the right view. Now let's select these two extrude objects here, and we can see that they are a little bit bigger than we need them. So let's first fix the axis and place it in the middle of these objects. And now let's use our scale tool. Now let's just reposition these ones, because when we made them smaller, they moved a little. And let's make visible the buildings again to see how these elements are working together. And again, we are going to select these splines, and we have to close this spline. Remember that if we don't do that, we won't be able to have these caps. Let's make a quick render. And I think we have to change again the movement. Now it's very small. So let's make something like 7 or even 9. 9 works well. And let's just reposition this object here. Just move it a little bit to the left. And I think it looks better now. So now let's select these extrude objects, and pressing the command Alt G or Option G, we're going to create a new null object with these elements inside. We have to change the axis so it's centered. Now let's go to Mode and View Settings, and let's go to Back, and let's increase the transparency percentage for this background image. So now let's rename this new null object. Let's name it something like window details or anything like that. And there's one more thing that I like to use, and I use it on every project that I work, and that is just a new null object which I'm going to call trash. And in this object I'm going to place any element that I may want to go back later to and modify it. So let's make this new null object and let's call it trash. And let's place it just at the very bottom of all of our objects. And now let's just duplicate this group and let's rename it editable splines, and let's place it inside of this trash group, and we can make it invisible for both render and the view. So now we can go ahead and just make this editable object with that button here, or with the letter C, which is the shortcut for that. And let's just change the name so it is not too big. So instead of window detail, we just are going to be using WD01, and let's rename the other elements that are inside of this group. Just WDA, WDB, and WD main. So let's go ahead and duplicate this group, and we're just going to make copies of it and place them under the host for the windows that we made before. So let's do that. So let's place uh, this one here. Let's try to have it in the middle. Just make another copy and do the same thing. Just place it. That looks good. Now let's make the other copy and place it on the last window. Okay, so now let's make a quick render here on the perspective view so we can see these details. Let's make another quick render, and that looks good enough. Okay, so now let's just rename these groups, and we're going to select them all and make another group, and we're going to use the command Option G or Alt G, and we're going to rename this group to WD second floor, and we're going to make another copy and just change the name for third floor, and we're going to now move this group to the third floor. And now we can go ahead and make one more copy. That's going to be for the fourth floor. So let's move it. Let's go to the perspective view so we can see, and they have to be on the other line. So let's um, move them down. Okay, we had made a mistake, so let's just move it, and we have to move the other one too. And now we are done. So now we can just rename this group to WD fourth floor, and make a quick render. And we can change the perspective, and let's go ahead and make another quick render. We still have lots of things to learn, so stay tuned and I will see you on the next video.